Hi, this is the Diablo Podcast. I am your host, Flux, and we are online at diablopodcast.com. My co-host this week, as always, in our News Attack podcast is...
Me. Elly. Sorry, I was waiting for your usual intro.
Here's Elly.
Davis.
And this is our weekly News Attack podcast in which we touch on some of the local recent news stories of note, and very much recent at this point, since it's been about, 4 hours since you posted the first picture ever of the Diablo 3 beta.
Yeah, and the site's jumping.
Yes, I was sleeping because I have horrible vampire hours, and I got up and looked at the main page, and there was 114 comments or something on the last news post. I was like, hey.
That came out actually just after you went to bed.
Isn't that just the way of things?
Yeah, it's literally 5 minutes.
Much like the sun, it also came after I went to bed. Shortly. So we have currently at Blizzard Irvine. Yesterday they had the start of this big media event with lots of media from the U.S. and Europe, and today it's all the media from Asia. And they are being shown the beta demo, getting a chance to play that, and a presentation of lots of new Diablo 3 over Battle.net features, as well as lots of information about big game changes in Diablo 3. And through the brilliant choice of Blizzard Irvine PR, who we're going to avoid saying horrible things about for the next 10 minutes with any luck, nobody from the leading Diablo 3 site, that's us, right?
Yep.
Was invited to this. We've had some disputes with Blizz PR, and we're not quite sure exactly what the problem is because they haven't really communicated it to us. But anyway, we were not invited. And the amusing element of that is, of course, we're not under the NDA, and when several people who were invited sent me information about it last night because they're unhappy that we weren't invited, and these are not fan sites, by the way. These are people from other forms of media, big gaming sites and such. The guy who leaked the screenshot today that we're going to discuss in a moment was from I think it was a Danish website?
Yeah, Gamer Kings TV?
Yeah, and he's not sending us information. I can rule him out. But there were more than a dozen media there from all websites all over the world, U.S. and Europe. So it's not just like 3 fan sites from the U.S. or anything like that. But anyway, this event is going on, and right now, in theory, the Asian media sources from Korea and Japan and China and such are playing the Diablo 3 beta, and probably having a lot of fun doing so. But the point is that we are in possession of lots of the secret information from this event, and it's all under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, until August 1st, I believe. So we are going to be biting our tongues and trying not to say lots of really cool stuff on this podcast that we would like to talk about, because, of course, this podcast will be posted before the NDA expires. What would you most like to speak about if you could, Elly? The secrets. Oh, I guess you can't answer that question, can you?
Well, I think when I look down the bullet list of all the different changes, I can safely say, I'm just trying to think because it's not in front of me because I'm in a different room at the moment, probably at least 2 times my jaw dropped and I went, what the...
Yeah, my first thought was it's a shame all this is coming out at once, because this would have sustained us for easily a month. Every other day we could have had one new thing and had a huge fan discussion about it. And they've given us no new information for months, and they've obviously had a lot of these changes and been working on them for a long time. My first thought was this is Blizz PR not really capitalizing on the circumstance. And my second thought was maybe they're actually being smart, and by saving all these big things up for once, it's like, well, fans will just kind of be overloaded.
Well, there'll be some things that aren't so popular, and you usually bury maybe not so good news in better news, don't you?
Yeah, so just by putting 20 things out at once, the fans, there won't be any one thing that everyone is going to be talking about or complaining about, so it'll be kind of dividing our attention. And there are several changes I think are very cool that I think is a good idea, and there are a couple that I think I'm not so fond of from what I've heard of them thus far. And this weekend, I'm going to be recording a podcast, our longer form podcast, with a couple of our other guests, at least the Eliminator, who emailed me about it first, about a lot of this new stuff, and we'll be posting that the minute the NDA lifts. There's like 6 volunteers that rotate in and out on these other podcasts that we do. I should probably have them offer bids or bribes or something, because whoever's on it's going to get to hear all this stuff a few days before anybody else.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why Eliminator emailed me. He wanted to make sure he got his place in line.
Yeah, he's not trying to be super helpful.
Yeah, he's like, just the fact that I'll get to hear all the information first, just very minor consideration, of course. I'm like, yeah, right. I think what I'm going to do with that is not tell them anything until I have them actually talking on Skype.
So you can get live reactions.
Yeah, and I'll say, so guys, how about this one? And just hear what they say. Yeah, right then and there. It'll be fun, real time, and just have to bleep out all the profanities and OMFGs and stuff. But
yeah, because I think some of them, if you said some of the changes, people's reactions would be, no way, you must be joking.
We're going to get into a little more details about the beta stuff later on this brief podcast, which is not so brief at this moment. But we had a bunch of other news from the past week. I think we're going to do some other stuff first and then get back to this. Is that the plan there, Ellie?
I don't know. It's kind of gone way off course, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It's tough when we actually have news and we're not just trying to pretend like there's news.
It's all the excitement. It's all the excitement. It's the excitement of the press event that we're not at, which is very exciting. I was thrilled to not get my invitation. And it's the excitement of this wonderful list of features that we can't speak about.
But at the very least, by I think August 1st, we'll be posting lots of new stuff, and it'll be very exciting and lots of fan discussion. And we're not just hyping that up. I mean, it's legitimately, a lot really interesting things. Moving right along, we're going to get back to that in a minute, actually, some other beta stuff. One thing you wanted to mention, Ellie, was that Bashiak, our Diablo 3 community manager, made a post late last week talking about answering some questions from people who said that they've taken too much of the skill out of Diablo 3 and there's too much customization gone and it's going to be too easy. And Blizzard has said repeatedly that normal difficulty is not really going to be very hard. It's kind of a warm-up to ease you into the game, and then it gets more realistic and harder on Nightmare and Hell. And some fans are not too fond of that concept.
I'm not. Well, I am, as long as I can skip normal difficulty. He said last week that Diablo 3 eases you in more so than even Diablo 2. And I know it gets progressively more difficult as you go through the acts, but my concern is that the real challenge for maybe experienced gamers such as myself and you and a lot of the other people that come to the site is that the challenge will only come when you get to Nightmare. But by that point, you've already seen it all. So you won't ever get both things. You'll get either or. It'll be new and easy or more difficult and old.
It sounds like you need a food tester.
What? No, I just need to be able to skip normal and go to Nightmare. I want it to be challenging, but I want all of it to be new. But it won't be by the time I get to when the game is more challenging.
Okay, I have a solution for you. So you go
pay someone to level me through.
You go out into the teeming streets of London, the Oliver Twistian rabble.
You do realise the West Country's nowhere near London, don't you? I know you seem to think London, that's it for England, UK, but it's not. I'm miles away.
I think you're like Hong Kong. You're an island with one big city in the middle of it. There's nothing else there. Just sheep and Irishmen in some not particular in that order.
Oh God, Irish. Yeah, okay. I'm going to get you an atlas for Christmas.
And I also believe that England is exactly like I see it in A Christmas Carol and/or Sherlock Holmes on the BBC, and it's just dirty streets with like horse-drawn carriages and lots of little urchins running around, striking matches, trying to keep their little fingers warm. Don't mention fingers. So, segueing from this point, of course, there are lots of little children who will do anything for a penny or perhaps a tuppence, if in English terms. How much is that anyway?
Tuppence, 2 pennies, I think.
Who knows? Anyway, you get a few of your tuppences together, and you find an urchin or two, and you have them play Diablo 3 for you on normal difficulty. And when they zoom, like Chinese gold farmers, except not Chinese. And once they've zoomed your witch doctor or whatever through normal, then you can give them their tuppence and send them on their way with some steak and kidney pie. and then you can play on Nightmare.
That is one way. Or I could just have a button that said skip normal difficulty. But don't you agree, though? Don't you think it's good to have the challenge and the newness? No, I just wouldn't you like... I mean, you're going to play it through softcore anyway, aren't you?
Well, definitely the first time. I mean, I'll need to gather information for the site, for one thing.
Yeah.
Just go through and take lots of screenshots of all the act bosses and such.
Well, that was my thought anyway on reading Bashiak's assurances last week about the game. It will be challenging. Although it will start off easy, it will get challenging. I just thought, for those of us who want the experience and the newness, allow us to skip over normal and go straight to Nightmare difficulty.
or just make normal difficulty more difficult. But they're not going to do that. So.
No, they're not, because they want to appeal to the masses.
Well, you could just not use good equipment or something, but I guess it's no fun when you're gimping yourself intentionally.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my suggestion, which I'm sure they'll hop straight on.
They'll be delaying it a month just to implement this one feature. You'll know who to blame, guys.
Yeah.
Another interesting tidbit that we got just a few days ago was an image of the Diablo 3 beta box art appeared on Battle.net and made much revelry about. Jump right in there, Elly.
Well, I must admit I didn't share in that. I just thought, oh, right, yeah.
But it was shiny.
Yeah, it was shiny and it was new, but I didn't get quite as excited as yourself about that.
Well, obviously there's not actually a beta box. I mean, they don't send you they don't make a cardboard container for a beta. This is just the box that you see on your Battle.net account.
Yeah.
Where it shows you the various games you have access to, or you've linked to your BNet account.
Well,
and obviously they have World of Warcraft and StarCraft 2 and other such things. And this is just that icon, essentially.
Yeah, and the implication is that they're ramping up. They're getting things in place ready for the accounts to be notified if they've got the beta applied to their account.
Yeah, and we obviously knew they would be doing this, and at some point, it's not like it was a surprise. We knew the beta was coming up pretty soon. But I think I would say it's a tangible reminder, but of course it's not tangible. It's just a picture.
No,
but,
it's virtual.
Metaphorically speaking, it's a virtually tangible reminder. And there were lots of, comments of people like they just seen a movie star in person, like squee.
No, that was you.
Well, then everybody did it in the comments, though. See,
yeah,
so.
Only on your instruction that people should squee.
Well, yes, because the readers always do what I tell them to.
They do.
My minions, my army of winged monkeys. The best way to get readers to do something is to tell them to do the opposite.
You're winning fans now, aren't you, by calling people minions?
It was a Wizard of Oz metaphor.
Right.
Fly, my minions, fly!
Come on, you big geek. Get on with it.
I'm doing a Diablo 3 podcast. I can't call anybody else a geek, for God's sakes. The next topic, at the SDCC San Diego Comic Con, which I went to years ago, back when it really was Geek Fest. It was like bootlegs of anime showing in upstairs or bedroom windows. And now there's movie stars and stuff. It's very different. I haven't been since. I used to live in San Diego, so it was an easy trip. Anyway, Blizzard had a panel in which they unveiled lots of new merchandise, including some Diablo 3 merchandise. And I believe your favorite, Elly, was the Demon Hunter coat.
Oh, God, no, I didn't like that at all.
It was a little too emo, a little too goth.
No, not really for me. It looked like an overcoat, which obviously it is, but then with the hood, it was just... No, I didn't like it. My favourite was the Mistress of Pain knee-high socks. I thought they were rather nice. I thought they were better modelled on the man with the beard. Who is he?
A model.
No,
I did not know. Nobody on the Diablo 3 team, as far as I know. Maybe somebody in their merchandise department or...
Anyway, they look quite nice, and I liked the Butcher t-shirt. I thought that was quite nice.
And the amusing thing is the Mistress of Pain socks they're knee-high socks that are black with like white skulls on them, kind of. Look like something you'd buy at Hot Topic in the U.S. And they have some sexy redhead model in one, and then the hairy, pudgy guy in the other, just for a joke, I would assume, but perhaps not. But the funny part, of course, is the Mistress of Pain is some sort of spider centaur thing, with the lower body of a spider, upper body of a human. And she doesn't have any feet. She just has spider legs. So would she wear 4 pairs of Mistress of Pain socks?
I don't think she wears socks.
but
she's barefoot.
They're her socks. I mean, Diablo doesn't wear his Diablo pin, but it is a pin. Should they have? What are spider legs called anyway? I mean, the pinchers.
Spider legs. Spider legs.
There must be some entomological term for that.
You're getting way too wrapped up in this. It's just clothes.
But they're socks. They're spider.
But there's a Diablo belt, and Diablo doesn't.
Spider socks.
Diablo doesn't wear a belt.
Spiders. Smocks. Yes, it's a Diablo belt as well, and the Tyrael hoodie seemed like the winner for most fans.
Yeah, I thought that was quite nice. But it
should come with some of those like Victoria's Secret angel wings. That'd be a nice touch.
Yeah, I can see the guys at college wearing those.
You said guys? Oh well, I guess guys can wear it too.
What is it? It's a man's coat, isn't it?
Either or. And of course, we have these pictures on the Diablo site on DiabloIncGamers.com, and the links to all of these news posts that we discuss are on the podcast post on DiabloPodcast.com. They haven't released prices or availability yet, but I would assume if they're showing them off at the show, they're going to be for sale.
Well, hopefully they'll be available by Christmas, and somebody in America could buy them for a friend in the UK and have them shipped there. The socks.
Was well done.
Did you see how I? Did you see my subtle hint there?
Subtle. I'll wrap them up in your new Demon Hunter coat.
Oh, please.
Now watch you get 70 pairs of these from all your adoring fans come Christmas time.
Yeah, and of course they also announced the Sword of Justice, a new comic book, at the San Diego comic thing last week too, didn't they? And you're into comics, are you not?
I mean, I still have a copy of the Diablo 2 comic. They did a single edition of that long ago. I mean, I don't buy comics. I read them occasionally. I don't actually purchase any on a regular basis, though.
This is a 5-volume one, though, isn't it? So this is for real comic fans.
Well, it looks like it's going to be, at least it'll give us some story. You know, I mean, the other merchandise is just cool stuff to hang on your wall or to wear on your back or possibly both. But this is a story that's, from what they told us, it's going to be set, you know, kind of at the end of Diablo 2 expansion after Tyrael has destroyed the World Stone. And then apparently Tyrael vanishes not to be seen again for at least 20 years. But he leaves his sword behind. And the sword is some sort of semi-sentient object that sort of calls out to some local kid who finds it, and then they go out and kick ass and save the world. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, it's kind of like a Book of Cain sort of thing, where it's not really the plot of Diablo 3, but it's just filling in more background of the world, more details. And obviously there's people who are really big in the lore and completists, and will want to see it, or at least to know what it tells, if not actually reading the whole thing themselves.
I'm not the target audience for that. I'm not real. I do have the Watchman, but it's still very shiny and it's in its wrapper. So,
if and when they start selling the Diablo 3 comic, you're not holding out hope for that being your stocking stuffer for Christmas. You just want the socks.
Just the stockings, yeah, please. Hint, hint.
Hint, hint. Wink, wink.
Nudge, nudge.
Just nudge. If you start doing Monty Python voices. So, segueing back to the big news, conveniently enough, there was also a Butcher t-shirt offered at the San Diego Comic-Con. And we've taken that, along with some concept art from some other things that Diablo 3 has released in the past, to imply that the Butcher is returning, the famous, scary, fresh meat. Our scariest Diablo 1 monster, who was kind of in Diablo 2 in the form of the Smith. That was kind of the same model, but he wasn't scary or dramatic, really. But apparently he's coming back in full force in Diablo 3, and he's got big spirally horns now and a much bigger axe. And he's going to be very, very scary. At least I hope so.
Oh, I'm sure he will be. But he's not in the first part, is he? Because apparently... Oh, am I allowed to say?
He doesn't appear to be in the beta test.
All right.
We don't know this for sure, but the news we got just today, just a few hours ago, is somebody posted a sneaked screenshot, cell phone screenshot of the beta, and it shows King Leoric's throne room, and the logo, the text is what? You know, congratulations on completing the Diablo 3 beta, something like that?
Yeah, that's it.
And obviously they could have had the Butcher before then, but I don't know, he was before the Skeleton King in Diablo 1. But it seems like if they were able to complete the entire demo in just an afternoon of playing, it's obviously not too big. You know, it's not the entire Act 1, I wouldn't think. Probably it's just, we've already seen the Skeleton King. He was in the 2008 demo, you know, not in his final game form, of course, not, you know, the whole quest leading up to it at least. But it seems like they're just it's kind of a glorified demo, the Diablo 3 beta that is. And they're putting in mostly stuff that we've already seen. It's just enough to give fans something to play and to be on Battle.net and to stress out the Diablo 3 Battle.net servers.
I think one of the sources who's been telling us what's been going on would have mentioned that they also met the Butcher, wouldn't they? Because because he's just been in the news literally like 2 days ago or something.
If they had said that, we couldn't mention it anyway, because that would be violating the NDA. So.
Right. Yes. Good point.
Good point.
So I'll edit that bit out.
Yes. So last weekend I did another one of these podcasts, one of the longer form ones with our usual guest Exile and Nineball, and we talked about the beta and speculated about the beta mostly. And they were both quite confident in saying it would be a fairly short beta test, maybe as little as 6 or 8 weeks, not 6 months. And I thought, wow, that sounds crazy. That would actually give Elly's infamous 11-11-11 release date preview a chance at still coming true.
Mm.
But as I wrote a post about it in the podcast news item on the Diablo IncGamers site, kind of saying, well, they've got a pretty good point once I thought it over, because Blizzard is not really using the beta to test out the game. It's going to just be a part of Act 1. And they're mainly using the beta to test out the Battle.net servers and the new online features. It's not for game balance. It's not the whole entire game itself like the World of Warcraft betas have been. So they don't need to give us the whole game, and therefore, if they're only giving us part of the game, why would it take them 6 months to do it? They just have to get all the tech stuff working.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that old podcast, because that sounds like my prediction that I took a punt at. Didn't I say that?
Yeah, you said short beta, and I said, no, it'll be long and lots of stuff.
Your exact words were, or something like it, I seriously doubt that.
I did at the time, and it seems like that's not the case, and we will obviously learn a lot more about the size of the beta in a few days when the NDA ends, and people can talk about what they played in it. But if they were, as this photo demonstrates today, if they're able to complete it in just a few hours, it's not all of Act 1, it's not huge. And in fact, you could actually read the text on the screen saying, use the secret passageway beneath the throne. So obviously, you just, in the game, you're killing King Leoric to get to a secret passageway and continuing on through the act.
It's under the seat. If you look at the...
That's what she said.
No. Listen, if you look at the image on the throne, the passage is opened right there. You can see it.
So there's a secret passage under the royal throne.
Yes.
That sounds like a metaphor for a primitive toilet. But yes. So in the game, obviously, you're continuing on past Leoric to something else, and that's not the whole beta. Which means the beta is going to be small, which means we're probably not going to play it for that long.
But GK Stephen, who posted the image and then had to remove it for some reason a few hours later, he'd said underneath it that he'd completed it 3 times with 3 different characters. So if he
just in one day, in one afternoon. So
yeah.
It sounds like it's almost like BlizzCon demo size, where you can rush through it in 20 minutes if you hurry.
Yeah, so I think it will be a short demo, short beta period, because I think people are going to go through it with all the characters immediately.
He did 3 in one day, so yeah, it would seem that way. That's kind of bad news if you were hoping to be in the beta and play it a lot. But if you're just hoping to get in the beta, I think it's good news, because they'll have to invite a lot of people if it's that short. And they want to keep, we were talking on the podcast last weekend. They were keeping over 20,000 people active at pretty much all times in the StarCraft beta. So and basically everybody who got in the beta for StarCraft 2 was getting emails every 6 weeks or 4 weeks saying, here's another beta slot, invite a friend. So they were essentially doubling the beta size, doubling the amount of potential testers just regularly, to keep enough people on Battle.net that they can keep enough testing going and keep the load going and keep the balancing and all that stuff up. So it seems like they'll have to just blitzkrieg Diablo 3 beta testing in there. You can just get tens and tens and hundreds of thousands of testers to keep enough people on there for 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months or however long, which is good news. It means that lots of us, all of us, many of us will get a chance to test, hopefully.
And we might get the game in November.
What day in November would that be?
I don't know. It could be around about sort of second week, maybe the 11th.
That's funny, because isn't November the 11th month?
It is.
Really? What year is this? I can't remember. Is this 2010 still?
2011. I think you're fine.
Wow, what a coincidence. One other point that it seems relevant to this is that it's obviously not, it being Diablo 3's release date is not going to be held up based on balance issues discovered in the demo or character difficulty problems or etc. We're just getting a small part of the game in the demo, and it's going to be almost like in the demo. It's in the beta, and it's going to be almost like a demo. But what could take longer, of course, is they have to get all the technical stuff working. They basically do this so they can get everybody in the world with their janky 5-year-old computer systems trying to play Diablo 3 and getting, crashes because their video card won't render properly or whatever. But at the same time, the developers are continuing development. As we will be revealing in a few days when this NDA lifts, there are some major features that are still undergoing heavy revision And big changes have been made to things quite recently. So it's really going to be them continuing full-scale game development while the fans are basically taking care of kind of the tech support development via the beta test. And if they don't get everything working, they being the development team doesn't get everything working, then the game's not going to be released yet, regardless of what's going on in the beta test. So it seems like it's a little different than your usual Blizzard beta, which they generally seem to release only when things are really polished and pretty much finalized.
Yeah, because this weekend's the first time that the public have seen the new systems or the change systems that are in place.
Yeah, our last view of the game was at BlizzCon last year in October, which is, 9 months ago now. So obviously they've made a lot of big changes, and still quite recently. I mean, I was really surprised. You heard the same information I did from our informants.
Yeah.
But I mean, big major systems are still being worked on, and they're making. I keep saying big changes, but big changes. If only we could go into more detail about this. So that's pretty much it for the news. There's been some other smaller stuff, but it seems kind of pointless to discuss every little tidbit of nothing when we've got this huge beta stuff we're dying to get into. And you're excited for the weekend, and hopefully get some more information leaks, and we can continue teasing people remorselessly and relentlessly.
Yeah, we've got emails and PMs backwards and forwards trying to get more information out of people, but none of it can be shared, but we can enjoy it at least, so at least our visitors can comfort themselves in that fact.
And also, we have seen the whole media attachments. We can't post them in advance, but there are new screenshots, there is a new gameplay movie, there's all kinds of really cool stuff you guys will want to check out. So it's not going to be just information, there's pretty pictures as well. And all that's coming up, I believe, August 1st at 12:01 a.m. or whichever way that goes.
That's PST, isn't it, by the way?
That's totally not my problem. I'm not under the NDA. I can post it whenever I want to. Oh, wait. Yes, of course it is. That's exactly what Blizzard says. It's very important that we follow their instructions. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Rockety choo.